Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuhu, and good day to each and every one of us, especially to you sir, Doc. So I am Saudi Paglas Hajala, and this is the continuation of our topic from Group 1, which is the performance-based assessment. So without further ado, let's get started.
Performance-based assessment. Now, we are delved into the advantages of performance-based assessment. First, it assesses complex learning outcomes not measured by paper and pencil tests. Meaning to say, skills like creativity, problem solving, or teamwork are hard to measure with multiple choice tests. So performance-based assessment lets students show these deeper abilities in action. Example, a high school science students design and build a simple water filtration system for a local community. So they're explaining each steps. This shows problem solving and application of science concept, not just memorization. Second, it assesses the process as well as the product. It assesses the process as well as the product. We don't just care about the final answer, we care how the students got there. So watching their process help us to understand the reasoning, planning, and growth. And the third, it communicates instructional goals that relate to real-world context. When students see how what they're learning applies to real life, they're more motivated and engaged. It makes learning purposeful. The fourth one is it assesses the progress as well as the performance. Meaning to say, growth matters. So performance-based assessment lets teachers document where a student started and how far they've come. So for example, an English teacher tracks a student's writing portfolio across the semester and noticing how their storytelling, grammar, and voice improve with each new piece. Number 5, it involves the students in the process of assessing their own growth. When students review their own work, they become more reflective and responsible for their learning. Number 6, it recognizes that the students can express what they know and can do in different ways. Not every student strives with traditional tests. Some are visual, hands-on, or verbal learners. So this approach values those differences. And that's why differentiated instructions is very important, because it can able to unlock the potentials of every student, unlock their skills, and enable to collaborate with their peers and show their talent. For instance, in a classroom setting, the teachers give the same topic but in a different way of delivering. Through that, the students can able to showcase their ability, skills, and can able to collaborate in the class, and as well as they enjoy it. For the number 7, specific, direct, and understandable information about the students are available to parents. Performance assessments provide clearer feedback than the test scores, which helps parents support their child's learning. So example, instead of saying your child got an 82 in science, a teacher shares a project rubric, photos of the students' work, and the comments about their creativity and improvement in research skills. Number 8, it evaluates the whole student. A student's character, communication, and collaboration are just as important as their academics. So this method captures the full pictures. Number 9, it enhances the professional skills of teachers through collaboration with other teachers. Teachers often design and evaluate performance tasks together, learning from each other and improving their practices. So example, a group of teachers across subjects came together to create an interdisciplinary unit on climate change, combining science, writing, and art. So they meet weekly to assess students' progress and adjust plan. Number 10, it can establish a framework for observing students that is consistent with the principles of child's development. Meaning to say, so performance tasks are flexible and allow teachers to observe students in age-appropriate, developmentally sensitive ways. So example, in a kindergarten class, Children show understanding of numbers by setting up a pretend grocery store and buying items. So the teacher observes their counting, communication, and social skills. And lastly, number 11, it can contribute to a meaningful curriculum, planning, and the design of the developmentally appropriate educational inventions. So, meaning to say, this assessment helps teachers see what's working on what's not, guiding them to design better, more relevant learning experiences. So, for instance, after noticing many students struggled with a community mapping project, a teacher adjusts next year's geography unit to include more neighborhood walks, local guest speakers, and visual aids. Now, we are moving to the limitations of performance-based assessment. So, the first is constructing performance assessment is time-consuming. Yes, designing a good performance-based assessment requires carefully planning. Teachers need to create meaningful tasks, align them with the learning goals, and make sure they are appropriate for the students' developmental levels. So this process takes much more time than simply preparing a traditional test. And the second is scoring is often questionable because it is not reliable, most especially if the scoring guide or rubrics are not properly prepared. Do you agree with this? Because I am. Performance tasks involve subjective judgment, especially when the students presents or create something without a well-designed rubric. Different teachers or even the same teachers on different days might give different scores for the same work. This inconsistency makes grading less reliable. And last number for the limitations, number 3, it measures only a limited scope of a learning objectives. So meaning to say, performance assessments are great for going deep into a topic, but because they take time, they can't cover as many objectives as a traditional test. As a result, not all parts of the curriculum may be assessed this way. Are we all good with that, class? Any questions, clarifications? Okay, none, so very good. Now we are moving to developing performance-based assessments. Okay, so developing performance-based assessments can be challenging for many teachers. And it's understandable why some might be hesitant to use them. One major reason is lacking of training. So many teachers simply haven't been taught how to properly design, implement, and assess performance tasks without that foundation. So it is easy to feel overwhelmed or unsure about doing it right. And according to Stiggins, 1994, another issue is that the teachers who have tried using performance-based assessment in the past often didn't see clear, useful results. So this can be discouraging, especially when you put a lot of time and effort into something but don't feel it paid off. So there's also the challenge of evaluating students' work. Performance tasks often involves creativity, critical thinking, or collaborations. And grading this can feel subjective or complicated, especially if there isn't a clear rubrics or standards to follow. So despite these challenges, it is important to recognize that performance-based assessment can be incredibly valuable. That's why learning how to develop step by step is the key. So with proper guidance, support, and planning, teachers can build assessments that are meaningful, manageable, and aligned with both learning goals and real-world skills. And now let's proceed to the steps in developing performance-based assessment. So the first is define the purpose of the assessment. The first and most important step in developing a performance-based assessment is to understand why you are assessing your students in the first place. Is the goal to give them feedback and help them to improve as they learn? Or it is to evaluate what they've learned at the end of a unit or term of grading purpose. So knowing the purpose guides every decision that follows, from the type of task you design to how you score it. For instance, if your goal is to help students grow and reflect on their learning, you'll design a formative assessment that focuses on feedback rather than the grades. But if the goal is to measure overall achievement at the end of instructions, you'll need a summative assessments with a more detailed scoring system. And number 2, determine the skills, learning outcomes, and taxonomy level. After defining the purpose of the assessments, the next step is to identify what you want to assess. Not every learning objectives is suited for performance-based assessment. So it is important to choose carefully. Start by pinpointing the key skills and outcomes you expect students to develop from your lesson or unit. So this might include critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, creativity, or hands-on abilities. So performance-based assessments are ideal for measuring these types of higher order thinking skills, not simple recall or memorization. And number 3, design and develop activity or performance task. So designing a performance-based assessment involves creating tasks that enable students to demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and attitude in real-world context. So the first crucial factors to consider is the time allotted for the task. It is important to balance the time given so students can complete the task thoughtfully without rushing. Next, teachers must evaluate the availability of the classroom resources. So this includes ensuring necessary materials such as lab equipment or technology are accessible, or adjusting the task based on available resources. And lastly, the teachers need to establish criteria for judging performance. Clear rubrics or checklists allow for consistent and objective assessments of how well students meet the learning objectives. The task itself should be both meaningful and challenging, providing opportunities for active engagement in learning, such as performing a skit in a language class or conducting an experiment in science. Considering time resources, ensure the task is effective and valuable for assessing students' progress. And now, let's proceed to performance tasks. So, performance task is a type of assessment that goes beyond traditional questions and answer format like multiple choice or essay. Instead of simply answering questions, students are asked to actively demonstrate their knowledge and skills by doing something. So this could involve creating a project, conducting an experiment, delivering a presentation, or solving a real-world problem. So the goal of performance tasks is to assess how well the students can apply what they've learned in practical, meaningful ways. These methods allow students to show their understanding through hands-on activities and creative expressions rather than just recalling information. So it also encourages critical thinking, problem solving, and collaborations, which are essential skills in today's world. So in short, performance tasks offer a more holistic approach to assessments, providing a clearer pictures of what students can truly do with the knowledge they've gained. So examples, building a house using popsicle sticks, demonstrating the section of frog, drawing the map of the Philippines, writing a poem in iambic forms, solving math problems, writing a sports story, translating English paragraphs to Filipino, demonstrating a modern dance, and so on and so forth. Moving on, so let's proceed to suggestions for constructing performance tasks. So, a suggestion for constructing developing high-quality performance assessments is essential to effectively measure complex learning outcomes. These assessments go beyond simple recall of information and assess the student's ability to apply knowledge, think critically, and solve problems in a real-world context. To ensure the assessment is both fair and meaningful, it is crucial to design tasks that align with the intended learning objectives. Gronland, Lin, and Miller 2009 offer several suggestions for developing effective performance tasks. First, the task should be clear and directly related to the skills and knowledge you want to assess. The instructions should be specific and the expectations for performance should be well defined. Additionally, performance tasks should allow for students' creativity and critical thinking, providing opportunities for students to demonstrate a range of skills. And that's the conclude of my topic. I am Sadi Paglas Sajala and I am giving the floor to the next reporters Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuhu. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Thank you for listening and watching.